Thank you for joining us so soon after your lunch. I hope this will help you digest even further, but I wanted to share with you a little bit of what the World Bank Group is doing to address some of the issues that you've already heard discussed this morning, and I'm sure over the course of the next 2 days, and that is youth employability. And our focus this morning, or in this initiative, the E4e initiative for Arab youth, is really about how we can address issues that relate to raising all boats for Arab youth so that Arab youth can reach their potential. Basically, the vision and mission of this initiative, which is, as I said, the E4e initiative for Arab youth of the IFC World Bank Group, aims to provide youth with skills that are relevant to the marketplace by investing in education, engaging stakeholders, and enabling solutions so that Arab youth earn a better future. And embodied in that vision and our mission is all of the elements of our approach and what we hope to do, collaborating with all of the stakeholders who are very important to this initiative. Core to this mission is the role that the private sector in particular can complement in the overall provision of more quality and relevant skills for Arab youth. An issue that we are very increasingly becoming aware is not just one that faces the Arab world, but also youth all over the world. But let's talk a little bit about the stark numbers that we have in this region. This region suffers the highest youth unemployment rates in the world. It also happens to have the lowest labor participation rates, so that therefore compounds the issue even further. And if you're a female in the Arab world, the situation is even more dire. It has been estimated that the opportunity cost of this unbridled opportunity, or this lost opportunity in the Arab world, amounts to 40 to 50 billion US dollars per annum. That is equal to the GDP of countries such as Morocco or Tunisia. There is clearly a large opportunity cost that must be captured somehow. So what does that mean? If we look at it in terms of the context and extrapolate, is this just a problem in the Arab world? In fact, no. The reality is this is something that touches African youth, touches South Asian youth, and increasingly is even touching a lot of youth in advanced economies, such as what we see now happening in Southern Europe. How have we tried to understand this problem a little further? Because this is not just an issue of youth unemployment. The great contradiction is that in the midst of these staggering unemployment figures, educated and trained youth are increasingly not suited to the jobs that exist in the marketplace. So not only is there high unemployment rates, but jobs exist that they cannot even fulfill. And this has been engaged in our discussions with youth across the region and engaged in our discussions with employers who feel that they are not finding the skill sets that they need. And this is constraining their businesses. This is constraining the potential for additional job growth, therefore creating a vicious circle. How do we try to break out of this vicious circle? In the E4e initiative for Arab youth, we see 3 pillars as main ways of driving our strategy. The first pillar that we are focused on is investing. In other words, let's bring forth the forces of the private sector in collaboration with others to invest in better education and training opportunities for youth. But in order for that to happen, it needs to happen within a context of an enabling environment, the second pillar of our approach. And here we have to address cross-cutting enablers, which I'll talk a little bit about, but also ways of matchmaking between those who are looking for jobs and those who are seeking to employ. And moreover, this requires a change of mindset. It requires us to see the opportunities of the future, not with the lens of the past. Education is no longer about trying to secure a better status in society with a degree in engineering or a degree in medicine, but rather to look at vocational and education training as the hope for the future. And that is where the entire world is moving. If you look at emerging economies, whether it's Brazil or Malaysia, or even as we have seen in European economies, vocation and vocational training spells out the 21st century and the future. And there is a role to achieve this for all stakeholders. Every one of us, whether private sector, education providers or government, NGOs, employers, have a very important role in order for us to enable this virtuous cycle of collaboration. And it's very fitting that the event this week in WISE in Doha is called Collaboration for Change, because that indeed is the core of what we need to engage with all of our stakeholders so that they can bring about better solutions for youth everywhere, and in the context of our initiative for Arab youth. Whether an education provider needs to reach out to employers to improve standards and collaborate on making sure that what is being taught is what is being needed, is what is needed in the workplace, and to enable employers to reach out to youth and to work with them, so to create better working environments and access to skills through enhanced processes of scholarships, internships, apprenticeships, and the partnership that youth and employers can forge going forward, and indeed youth and the partnerships they need to forge with education providers in terms of having a voice in what they want to learn and the skills that they want to take into the labor market. But this virtuous cycle of outcomes needs to also occur within, as I've said before, an enabling environment. Two observations that we have made and which have been at the heart of our approach is that mismatches exist, and if we can focus our attention to which sectors those mismatches exist in, then we can have an immediate impact. But before we do that, we need to unlock that potential. And unlocking that potential means addressing the enabling environment. It means addressing those issues will help us attain the E4e ecosystem that we are striving to put in place through improved quality assurance frameworks that apply equally to public sector and private sector employers, by making sure that employers and educators have a more collaborative approach to education and training, by making sure that private education and training is accessible by all segments of society, so that providing access to funding and various funding options for them, but also creating the regulatory environment which encourages a better and more proactive approach to investing in education by the private sector. Ultimately, if we look at particular sectors, going back to the observation that we started this discussion by saying, mismatches exist within an environment of high unemployment. And the great conundrum is that certain sectors which have the potential to grow are being constrained. In the E4e initiative for Arab youth, we are focusing on 4 economies in the first instance in which to try to find E4e solutions: Egypt, Jordan, Tunisia, and Morocco. In the case of Egypt, for example, a number of sectors can be identified that are suffering from this skills gap. One of them is the construction sector. At all levels of the construction sector skills pyramid, you will see a dire need for different skills. How can we bring together the forces of the private sector employers, those who have the vested interest to make sure that the economy produces the skills that it needs to grow their businesses? How can we bring these employers together and to put in place education and training which performs and sets the standards that the rest of the economy can follow suit in? We have examples of this also in Jordan, where tourism, ICT, and healthcare are growing sectors constrained by skills gap. We at the E4e initiative have already identified interventions where we are, for example, launching an effort with the ICT sector and working with the private sector association in Taj to put in place solutions so that youth can get better education, which will enable them to earn that better future. At the end of the day, these examples abound in all of these economies. In Tunisia, you also have sectors that are suffering from skills gaps. And this is where we think, by working with you to address this challenge, by bringing in the role of the private sector, and with the solutions that we can forge together, we can call you to bear arms with us to make sure that our youth earn a better future. I'll stop there, and if you have any questions. Yes.
I live in Saudi Arabia, and I can say that the healthcare system there, the construction industry, is being supported by Egyptian workers, doctors highly trained, skilled, from engineers down to laborers. So I would think that the part of the problem that you might be having, you're saying there's a shortage of labor or a shortage of appropriate workers. Maybe they have gone elsewhere for presumably financial reasons. So maybe that's an issue that needs to be looked at as well.
Indeed, and in fact that is something that Egypt and other countries in the region, such as Morocco, that have a great wealth of human potential in terms of their resource base, have been the source of a lot of the needs in the region. But that's not to say that we need to track them back to the country, but that is to say that there is a great wealth of untapped resources in country that need to reach the level of that. They need to have the potential to seek opportunities within the country and in countries such as Saudi Arabia or elsewhere. I don't think that the brain drain is what these countries are suffering from.
I'm a CEO of a company, so I'm private. And I'm interested in the education and learning very much, especially in a country like ours, Palestine, where we cannot bring more workers from outside. So there is no competition. We are fated to have the same labor force we have and the same education that we've got in our universities. The question we have always is not if we are interested or not. The question is what our graduates needs to be a better labor force. Sometimes we feel it's not the skills. Most of the time, actually, we feel it's not the skills that they're lacking. It's more the character. It's more the personality component. It's their commitment. It's their innovation. It's critical thinking. So something that is long-term, deep into the heart of the community and the society that needs a lot of work from a lot of people. So we are like helpless in that spectrum. And I'm not sure who will be, again, the one who will be leading that effort.
Yes, thank you. In fact, in our discussions with employers and even with the youth, the absence of soft skills was identified by all parties. And how you can address and improve the soft skill gap is really central to how we can resolve some of the issues. In the earlier session this morning, it was the point was we know it when we see it, and we know it when it's being done well. But how do we scale it up? Was the challenge that was posed, and in fact that is the challenge that we through this initiative and through working with other partners and stakeholders we're trying to address.
Hi, I'm Aya from Tunisia, and I'm a WISE learner. I would definitely agree with the fact that what we lack is the skills, because we have the potential and innovation, especially in the area of technology, but we really lack the skills. But my question is, why don't you work with institutions? Why only work with the private sector? Because I think the training we need is not separate from the institution. We should have a training including in the curriculum, so that once we have our degree, it's a complementary program. So why you don't join the forces between institutions, private sector, all the stakeholders to collaborate?
I think it's very fitting that I close this short Q&A session by hearing from the youth. And I'm happy to carry on this Q&A further somewhere else, because I think the next speaker needs to come up. But you're exactly right. And I'm glad that the voice of the youth here is heard. It is not just one party that carries this role. It's all these parties who need to work together to achieve the right outcomes. And the private sector needs to have a voice in what is being taught in education providers, and they themselves need to be education providers, so that all education facilities are giving you what you need for you to realize your aspirations. Thank you very much.